Yeah, I haven't seen her in a while. I think the first time I met her was like by Tompkins Square Park in Manhattan. And you had the flower lady, you had the pigeon lady. Salute to the pigeon lady. I also got her book also. But the flower lady, I brought her book. And, she used to have a whole bunch of flowers on her table. And, the way she spoke about flowers, and she used to kiss her flowers, and the way she treated her flowers. Some people probably would look at her weird, right? I know a couple of people who called her the crazy flower lady. So I purchased her book after a while. I spoke to her. We had conversations one day. So she was talking to me and she was saying something about treating your relationships the way you treat your flowers, right? And I wasn't a flower guy at that time, I didn't know anything really about flowers. I knew that flowers was good, and I knew my grandmother had some in the apartment, in the house rather. And, you know, so I brought her book. And I got so many books in the house that some of them I don't even really get to read until maybe months or years later. So I'm doing the science to that quote, right? So I'm reading some of the books, and I'm like, okay, treat your relationships like flowers, right? What does she mean by that? What does she mean? And I remember the conversation that we had, and I seen her one day on 14th Street, right? I haven't seen her in a while. I seen her on 14th Street, bumped into her, had a whole bunch of flowers on the table. She's selling flowers, and one of the last plants that I brought was a money plant, because I remember her polite speaking about it, or someone speaking about it. And so I brought a money plant from her. She had a money plant for like $8. I brought one for my daughter. And she was like, treat plants the way you treat your relationships. And I was like, wow. So maybe about 3 months ago, it dawned on me. And I was like, let me do some research and, treat your relationships the way you treat your plants or your flowers in your house. You water them, you tend to them, you care for them, you nurture them, right? It's no pressure. And a friend had asked me, they said, what's the communication with your plants? And it's the same communication that you have with your pets and any other relationship, right? You will see a lot of times we neglect our plants, or we neglect our flowers, right? They might get some brown spots. They might start falling off onto the floor, and that's them communicating with us. But she was saying, just like some human relationships, you have plants or flowers, leaves that might need more light, more attention, more watering than others. Some plants, she was saying, you don't have to water for like 3 days. And I was like, okay. So then it started to make sense to me. All of this started to make sense to me, where sometimes we're putting too much attention on our relationships. We're smothering one another. And then some friends or some relationships might need more attention, more light. Right now, you have to see it in your heart to be able to deal with this. Is this something that you want to deal with? Is this your friend? Is this your relationship? Do you love them? And when you do, you pour into them. You don't poison them, you pour into them. So I'm like, wow, all of this is starting to make sense to me. And now, today, I'm like treating my relationships more like I would treat my plants, flowers in the house, right? I just brought a flower. I'm going to take a picture of it and put it on social media. But I'm like, wow, this is all making sense. So this lady that a lot of people thought was crazy, they thought she was bugged out because she talks to her water, she talks to her plants, she talks to her flowers. And I'm going to show the scientific proof of how flowers can boost our emotions. and help us out on a biochemical level and also a psychological level. I'm gonna show all of this, and I'm like, wow. And sometimes we say to ourselves, we say, yo, I wish I would have knew this when I was younger, but you know now. What are you gonna do with this information now? So treat your relationships like you treat flowers. And she's telling me some relationships need more attention, more light, more watering than others. And then some relationships, like flowers, like plants, she said we can overwater, give too much attention, drown them, suffocate them. And I'm like, oh man. And when I talk about relationships, I'm talking about, friendships. I'm not always talking about intimate relationships, but your friends. Some of your friends need more light, more caring, more watering. And I'm like, wow. So I just wanted to shout the flower lady out. Like I said, I met her at Tompkins Square Park, Manhattan, bumped into her on 14th Street a couple of years ago. I haven't seen her since. I hope she's still living. I know COVID took out a lot of people, but she taught me something, and I really didn't get it until years later. Treat your relationships the way you treat plants. No pressure, right? Many of us, we go into the same we go into different relationships in the same manner, the same energy, and everyone's different. Like every plant is different. And we know what plants do for us. This is why you will often see plants in hospitals. Sometimes you see plant patterns on the wall. Physical, people bring plants and flowers to people, right? We just went past Valentine's Day. Many people brought plants and flowers and roses for their loved ones. They inhaled them. It does something to the brain. And we're going to speak about that in another show. Go over to Just Eric, Brother Eric Kumba, man. We spoke a little bit about that yesterday. We touched on that topic, man. Go a salute to him. A lot going on TV. They had a good one today. Just Eric, the brother Battle Boy, and the brother Smitty. Awesome. And me, I'm about to go to the supermarket right now, so I'm going to touch bases with y'all in maybe about an hour. You can hit the Cash App, do what you do, show love, and we're going to speak more about this topic. Treat your relationships the way you treat plants.